Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about episodes 1 and 2 of the new season of Yellowjackets, but specifically about the scenes when Travis was high on the mushrooms and the screaming trees. So for those of you that have seen some of my previous videos about how Greek mythology probably plays a major role in Yellowjackets, well, this season for right now it actually looks like that Greek mythology connections might be more than just inspiration. But in the first episode, Travis is tripping on some magic mushrooms and he is acting a little weird at first, talking about how nothing is filled with things. But after all of that, Lottie talks about how she used to hear the wilderness, but not anymore. And she does seem a little upset by it. But as they get up to head back, Travis starts to hear screaming. And we don't really hear the screaming this first time. But as viewers, though, we do hear like a low rumble and the soundtrack. But I think the low rumble is separate. I think it's kind of specific. I think there's a reason why that low rumble is there. But you can hear it. And also on the closed captioning, it says that it's there as well. And at first, I thought it was coming from the ground, but Travis says that the trees are screaming at him. And he asks Lottie if she can hear it too, but she says that she can't. And then Travis says, well, you will. And I don't know what really made him say that. Maybe other voices as well speaking to him that had said some things to him. I don't know. But later in that episode, Shauna spits in Mari's food and she gets upset and runs away. But when they are talking about what to do next, and as she's running away, they hear screaming coming from the woods. And this time, I don't think any of them were tripping on the mushroom tea. And I bring that up for a reason we'll get into in a second. But Mari gets caught later in the episode by Coach. And the next episode, she says that she heard the screams as well when she's talking to Ben. And Travis also confirms that those were the screams that he heard when Lottie asks him about it. But later in the episode, they try again with the tea on Travis because Lottie says that they need to learn what the entity needs to say to them, and Travis so far is the only one that can hear it. So he drinks the tea again and it doesn't really go well. He starts flipping out instantly and then he starts to choke Lottie out, and when they get him off of him, he is still a little bit flipping out as well, and he starts to say a sequence of numbers. I'm not really sure what for. Maybe it was a way to just calm himself down. But even later in the episode, Lottie wants him to try again, and this time Travis denies it, and he tells her that the voice doesn't want him and that he wants someone else because she is much stronger. And he looks over and the camera pans to Akilah, and he says that she has all the animals' trust, so that's one of the reasons why it wants to talk to her instead. So after seeing all of this, I was immediately thinking about the topics we discussed on the earlier videos where we talked about the Melissae. I talked about how the use of the magic mushrooms or entheogens were used to supplement a lot of various amount of practices that were focused on transcendence, divination, prayer, trance, rituals, chanting, imitation of sounds, and even ecstatic dancing. But what I'm trying to say is this could be the reason they are so powerful and loud, the screaming that is, when Travis drinks the tea, because it could be breaking down those metaphysical barriers, and he's able to hear that spiritual world more clearly. And honestly, all of those screams could be the souls of maybe people that used to live here and have died. We do know Lottie says that something terrible has happened at least in the hut that they were in, but maybe the whole entirety of the marked land that we see in season 2 when they map the areas that Ty visits, maybe all of it is cursed or something like that. And also in season 3, it seems like their cult-like activities have actually started now, and we see them wearing those robes and flower crowns. Maybe crowns is not the right word for it, and also in the description for the episode, it says that they're going to bring back a old pagan tradition, and they're even thanking the wilderness in prayer before they eat also. So like I said in the video about the Melissae, they could be unknowingly worshiping Persephone and are priestesses in her cult, but maybe that is not the case. Maybe that's just a stretch, but at some point I think they'll learn exactly who it is that they are dealing with. And I also still think that there are more forces in play during this timeline, especially after Travis says that the thing that he was talking to wants to talk to Akilah as well. And the reason why I think he said that Akilah is so strong is because that maybe if we are dealing in the Greek mythology, maybe Akilah is blessed blessed by Artemis or possibly another goddess that's watching over her, and that's how she's able to receive all these animals and them liking her so much. But the thing that is talking to Travis and wants to talk to Akilah, it might try and corrupt her, and then they won't be able to have any food anymore. I'm thinking that this thing or evil force just wants to see them suffer, basically, but I'm not really too sure what it could be or who it could be. But now I wanted to talk about the screaming trees. They all heard it the time that Mari left. It could have been angry at them for letting her leave, and maybe they were able to hear it because they were doing a ceremony for the entity at the time. But also, trees can creak loudly when they have no water, but I will say they don't sound like how they did in the episode. So maybe it was a bunch of wildlife screaming at them. They could have gotten spooked when Mari ran through the woods, but at some point I think we all have to agree that there are possibly some supernatural things happening in this show. As for what it could be, I talked about in another video, the one about Javi. He had a drawing of a tree and it looks like there's a woman in its roots, and I talked about how that is a nymph or a dryad. So maybe those were the things that we heard screaming from the trees. But what do you think it was, and how can you explain what happened? Let me know. And lastly, adult Ty and Van went on a date in episode 1, and they got an appetizer at a real fancy restaurant, but they decided to leave and not pay the bill. So when they make their escape, the waiter is trying to stop them from running away, but he starts to slow down and then he collapses, and it looks like he has a heart attack. And when Ty returned, they do say that he died and he did have a heart attack, but we could probably assume that it was the man with no eyes. We can see him when Ty and Van are making out in the alleyway, but as to why and how he did it, I'm not really too sure right now. Maybe the man with no eyes was just trying to protect Ty, but killing him is a little bit crazy. I don't really know. But what do you guys think about this video and these theories? And thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.